All right, what is up, Notre Dame fans? We're back with a live Mike Goolsby show with Mike Singer, Mike Goolsby. I was out last week. I was in Key West for a bachelor party. Just nature trails and going to different flower gardens. Nothing, no debauchery was happening at all. And so Greg Gladkey filled in for me last week. And then the week before, we did a pre-recorded show. We weren't live, so we're back live. I guess we can say this is sponsored by Bolton Landing Brewing Company. They sent me a beer. Sent me many beers. I think Goolsby already went through his.
Yeah, they sent me many beers, but not enough. They're gone at this point.
We'll take more Bolton Brewing. We'll take more. Yeah, I just
Or
drink
any
a
or
bunch.
any other. We don't want to leave anybody out, Mike. Any
Yeah,
breweries.
yeah, yeah. If Budweiser wants to give us an NAL deal, or I'll say anybody can send us beers. We are easily bought, as well as a super chat. You guys can drop us super chats and hit us a thumbs up if you don't have any change to throw around. One quick item before we dive into this: go to blueandgold.com. Or I believe it's in the description of this video. There's a link to sign up for our newsletter. Look, Blue and Gold, we got interesting things coming up around the horizon. Maybe at the top of the year. Just kind of stay in touch. That newsletter is a great way to stay in touch with what we got going at blueandgold.com. All right, Mike, those housekeeping items out of the way, and everybody make sure you hit that thumbs up like I said. Notre Dame 28, Virginia 3. We're drinking a seltzer and IPA. Which one is drinking? Who's drinking what? You guys can figure it out. And also appreciate everyone listening via podcast on your way to work on Monday morning. Hope you guys are having a kick-ass start of your day. All right, Mike. Notre Dame 28, Virginia 3. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, with Armstrong being out, their quarterback being out, this was, aside from maybe the Navy game, this was the most confident that I felt going into a game. For all of our sports bettors out there, like this was a guaranteed cover at 7.5. So you felt confident going into the game, even with some of the players that we had out this week. Yet another business-like performance from the team. Nothing too showy, relatively consistent. It's really exciting to kind of see more young players get more time on the field. Just a business-like approach this week, Mike. I kind of put in my notes. It seems like week to week, dude, we're more often than not, we're a second half team. We kind of come out slow. Jack needs a spark where we bring in Tyler, and then the second half we usually kind of come back refocused, more engaged, and tend to put teams away. I felt like the Virginia game was a little bit of the inverse of that, in that we came out hot. The first half, you can, again, another night game on the road, you can sort of feel that energy come through your television screen. I thought we played super physical on defense early on, but then in the second half, it was like we were just trying to almost run the clock out and get out of there with a satisfactory win. So that was a little frustrating for myself, and I know it was for a lot of Irish fans.
I know I'm the you called me a couple shows ago the eternal optimist, and I wear that with pride. So yes, Armstrong was out. And by the way, on that line, 7.5. I do not condone sports gambling or say that I do, but if you kind of watch that line closely live during the game, after Notre Dame, I believe they missed the field goal on the opening drive, or went no, it was a turnover on downs, and then Virginia started to drive. That line dropped to 6.5, and that's how you do it. Not that I did that. But okay.
You're talking live betting, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to catch it at a commercial break or whatever. But no, when the news came out that he wasn't going to play, it went from 5.5 all the way to 7.5.
Yeah.
And as we know from being Colin Cowherd fans, very, very, very few players are even worth a point in terms of like the NFL. Like Tom Brady might be worth a point in terms of a spread. So
you think that's it?
Again, I'm sorry.
You think Brady's only worth a point?
Yeah, Cowherd's talked about it many times. Like
I know, I don't buy that. I don't buy that crap though.
Well, hey man, I'm just the messenger. But I think he told me I think I remember him hearing or saying that like Gronkowski is worth more points in terms of a betting scenario than Tom Brady is. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
But back to the game, Mike. Get away from this degenerate gambling conversation. But it was just business as usual.
Let me
Started
interject.
out hot.
Let
Yeah,
me
go ahead.
interject, Mr. Goolsby. You went on the road by 25 points same day that Oklahoma goes and loses at Baylor, that Texas goes
Here
and
we go.
loses at home versus Kansas.
Hmm.
So yeah, I get it. A lot of Notre Dame fans are frustrated right now. I mean, I already see it in the. All right, so tons of comments here. Brian, no killer instinct, Kelly. You know, let's see. You know, BK lacks killer, and we're just what 5 minutes into the show, and a lot of people are already frustrated with the 25-point road win.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but also I mean, Notre Dame players, a ton of them were battling the flu. I mean, they had talked about all during the broadcast. I'm kind of like, man, it's tough also to complain about Notre Dame not playing enough freshmen, and we need to see Buckner more, and then they do, and then he and Diggs fumble at the inside the 10-yard line. It's like, do we want to play more freshmen? Do we want to blow Virginia out? Like, because I mean, there was a ton of backups playing late in that game. And let me also add real quick before you give your rebuttal, Mike. Notre Dame hasn't blown anyone really out this year, except for these past two
For sure.
games, right? They didn't have that Central Michigan game or Bowling Green where they win 50 or USF, they win 52-0 and play the third and fourth stringers. I mean, I think it was good for them to just survive, not have anyone get dinged up after all these injuries. You guys got a bunch of dudes with the flu away from home. Just get in, get out. 25-point victory against a 6-3 team, of course, without Armstrong, but still, that's kind of my thoughts there. I know that's not a popular take, but that's what it
Well,
is.
so yeah, the lack of killer instinct. I totally agree. It's Brian Kelly is a very conservative coach. He takes a very conservative approach to his game planning, his execution, and the way he, I guess, manages a game throughout. What's interesting, and it kind of helped me walk through this, Mike, if you will, but it seems like some of the younger players that we're playing almost seem to be better, more athletic. They have the ability to make more splash plays than like your more tenured older players. And like, not that Bo Bowers may be a good example. I guess he hasn't played as much, so he's younger in that regard, right, Mike? But he makes more plays. He jumps off the screen more so than a Drew White does. So I almost feel like the infusion of youth at so many different spots. I mean, we've got a true freshman starting safety, right? Henderson looked great, can fly, right? It's a much more natural fit, and it makes sense on paper to see him playing center field free safety. So it almost seems like Kelly's hand is going to be forced, Mike, in terms of you're going to play more explosive athletes, younger kids, and then if that is true, then how do you continue with this conservative approach to your game planning? It's just kind of an interesting balance in that, like, I feel like his hand might get forced. Just be like, hey, we're gonna go let our dogs eat, let our horses go run. It's hard to rein in those types of athletes, and we're recruiting them and we're plucking them. It's like we get excited, and then you want to roll them out, but not in a conservative fashion. So it's going to be interesting to watch this thing. And then where is Kelly at in terms of his career as he gets closer and closer to what some might consider like retirement age? It's just that whole thing to watch where we're at today, winning games handily based off of talent and a somewhat conservative approach. We're not hammering the gas pedal. And then if you could like forecast a year or two out, Mike, you have to. I feel like he almost has to take the training wheels off and let the kids go play. I think that's the way this thing is trending to me.
We've had this theme earlier in the season of this maybe after like the Toledo game or something where it's like, do you go 8-4 and ride Buckner? Do you go 10-2 and ride
How
Jordan?
funny.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like they're kind of in the middle of it? like it's I mean, obviously the record is trending towards 11-1, but they're kind of doing a little bit of both. They're building towards the future. And I know they're playing a lot of these young guys out of necessity. But I mean, you kind of agree with me there. It's like they're kind of they're certainly seem to just kind of figure the season out as they're going along each game, but they're winning all of these games, of course, other than Cincinnati, and playing all the young guys too.
Yeah. Um, it's crazy. And then you talk about this season going 11-1. If that's the likely outcome, you hook Coach Kelly up to a lie detector test. Does he really want to go to the playoff this year? Not saying that that's. I mean, all those different playoff type scenarios are somewhat beyond me, Mike. But it seems like he's priming the team, and then like next year or the following year, you've got all these year one freshmen, true freshman type players that have a year and a half, 2 years of playing experience, and they're so primed and ready. So it's just that's the exciting part. I totally understand the frustration. I'm frustrated by Brian Kelly's conservative approach, but what helps me sleep at night as a fan, Mike, is like I don't agree with Brian Kelly's overall approach, but I trust it at this point. You understand?
Sure.
That's where I'm at.
I mean, I picked 11-1 before the season, and I was like, it's probably gonna be 9-3 or 10-2. And then certainly after some of those early stinkers, you're like, 9-3, 8-4. Dude, 11-1. I mean, and this was supposed to be the transition year, that bridge year from Ian Book to the next guy. And you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about a bridge year, and you're potentially going to go 11-1. I mean, Georgia Tech and Stanford's not on paper shouldn't be difficult opponents. I mean that's a pretty darn good year. So Notre Dame fans, I understand. Bobby O says most coaches would have went for the kill with a minute and a half. But I just I'm a guy who wants to look at the big picture, and I'm like, Notre Dame just won by 25 points on the road. Notre Dame is 9-1 when this was supposed to be not quite a rebuilding year, but somewhere between rebuilding and reloading. Right, that bridge year. And I'm curious, Mike, if you have any thoughts on that. Plus, the you don't think Kelly, and I know you love your conspiracies, but you don't think Kelly really is gunning for the playoff? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, going back to, I'll make a note here, but going back to like this game, we should have, you know, kept our foot on their throat. We should have scored X number of points. I get that. And at the end, we should have hammered them, put another point, another touchdown on the board. But it's like the second half offense, they just continue to run their offense. And if that results in more points, great, but we're not going to switch it up. We're going to kind of maintain that conservative approach. So we're not going to pull out some trick play or something or throw the ball deep to get an extra touchdown on the board. It felt like the offensive approach changed. We tried to take some chunk plays, tried to take some shots. We just missed. Jack just missed on Styles early in the game. So it's like I think we backed off of that, and then we just rode a conventional kind of conservative run game focused offense. And if that resulted in 42 points, so be it. If it results in 28 points and we get to secure the win, so be it. So that was that. But yeah, in terms of like, if we had scored 42 points and just completely blown their doors off, and then we impress, the playoff committee, and then we wind up in we can sneak into the playoff and we get the brakes beat off us by a Georgia versus going and playing a team that we could beat, in a January 1st bowl game. You're better off for that. Like the latter scenario is better because all these fans,
that is
all
very
these,
much up
Mike,
to
real quick.
opinion. That is
I'm sorry.
that's very opinion. Like,
Hey, that's
I
what I'm here for, brother. That's what
oh,
I'm
I
here
know.
for.
I'm just saying that's just very obviously it's opinion. It's very like super subjective though. Like that's some people
Well, all
might
the fans, also all
take
the fans, Mike, all the fans that are pissed that we didn't score more points and didn't have a more impressive win are the same fans that are going to be moaning and bitching that we got, again, the doors blown off us by Georgia in round one of the playoff. So which one is it? I'd rather get a conservative win this year. I'd rather get a conservative win and then go win our bowl game. And then, and then we come out preseason ranked, whatever. It's just a much more appealing scenario to me.
yeah. I don't think I think Kelly wants the playoff.
You
Like
do?
I
I
don't
disagree.
think I And I don't think 28-3 or 42-3 would make much of a difference. The only way Notre Dame's getting in there is just chaos. I don't
Yeah.
think. I mean, I think they're
Well, this year I think they said during the broadcast like 20 something top 10 teams have gotten knocked off this year
it's
or this
crazy.
season thus far. So yeah,
Yeah,
it is wild, and it still could be. But again, bro, you're going to go into the playoff playing half a dozen true freshmen across the board, and and again, it sounds like it's almost a knock on the program, but it's truly not. I mean, the culture is there, the talent acquisition has gone and steadily up. But yeah, to play this many young kids and to play at a high level, because I can tell you, folks, like having been a true freshman playing college football, those kids that are like out there, they don't truly know what they're doing. Like you think Ramon Henderson like knows that playbook inside and out? There's no way he's playing off of sheer ability. And these types of kids, the speed, the length, like you're seeing them given a chance, being forced into duty. How he looks better than Houston Griffin. Like it's not even close, right? He made a play. His first start makes a play.
yeah, yeah.
So
He is a
that to me is
sophomore.
super exciting.
He's a sophomore, but this is like the real. That was
His
the
first
most he's
start,
played.
fair, yeah,
Yeah,
fair, his
yeah,
first
yeah.
starts, yeah.
All right, a couple super chats. Mike Nolan dropped us. Who's on the $5 bill? But that's what he dropped us. Appreciate it, Mike. If you have a question, see a comment from you. It says Brian Kelly's 52-9 over the last 5 years, winning percentage of 85. Notre Dame fans should realize how many schools will love that. Los Angeles and Austin. That's Mike. That is like the comments that like where are you on this? Like on if you look at Goolsby's seltzer glass, there is that half full or half empty? Like do you, it's a great see it,
Right about, yeah.
right? That's
How
close.
ironic.
Um, yeah, I mean, you look at some of those other schools, like I said earlier, Texas. I mean, just lost to Kansas. I mean,
Oh, they've got
um,
to be beside themselves down
if
there.
you like, I would maybe encourage some Notre Dame fans to like go see some other message boards. Imagine how an Oklahoma fan's feeling right now. I mean, it's they're similar to Notre Dame. Like they're so close. They're getting to the playoff. They're not winning national championships. They had, I mean, yeah, they stunk against Kansas too this season. Maybe we should need to start betting Kansas. So
Well, I'll tell you,
any
Mike, again, the win percentage is great. A lot of schools would kill to be in that position, but we're here ultimately to win a national championship.
that's
And I that takes staying healthy, takes a little bit of luck, it takes big plays. You have to have the right types of athletes at the right types of positions. And you know what, this is our almost second full year of doing this together, Mike.
mhm.
Personally, I look at like the talent on the field, especially like again, like I look at like a Bo Bauer versus a Drew White, and I feel better about Bo Bauer's athletic ability than I do Drew White. So like in so many of these positions, you kind of know in the back of your head what's waiting in the wings. And I am far more optimistic at this point as a fan than I was at this year than I was at this point last year, just because you're starting to get those longer athletes. So yeah, I think these kids are learning how to win. They're learning how to prepare, and to me, it's like it's still kind of a building process. And you can't say anything anymore without somebody crucifying you for it. But I really feel like Mike, the next year or two is going to be super exciting for Notre Dame fans. I legitimately do.
Yeah. Uh,
We just got to get Buckner at quarterback.
I mean, this has just been a fun season across the board. I
Oh,
mean,
no doubt.
it's been. My brother actually texted me yesterday, and he said, "Hey, this might be a dumb question, but for your business, is it better if Notre Dame wins or loses?" And I said, "That one, that's a fantastic question, and the answer is exciting. I just drama like." Notre Dame beating Syracuse 42-20 or whatever it was last year. It's just kind of like, eh. Like this game, I got a bunch of Notre Dame fans pissed about Brian Kelly not running up the score. That is fantastic. So,
Oh, you
it
can
yeah,
see by you can see by the view count on our YouTube videos. Yeah, if we play poorly or come close to losing, or God forbid do lose, I mean the views there's twice as many.
That Virginia
And
Tech game where Cones comes out and he's not great, Buckner, and then you put Cone back in. I'm telling you, folks, you love drama. That's what it is. It's drama and it's passion. You love Notre Dame, and you do love that drama. So, all right.
are we going to talk about Cone and Buckner quick?
Oh, we
Like,
certainly will. We certainly
all
will,
right,
Mr.
all
Goolsby.
right.
Let's hang on 1 second to that thought. Make sure if you are live with us or watching back, hit that thumbs up. Appreciate you guys listening via podcast as well. Make sure to go to blueandgold.com, like I mentioned earlier, and sign up for our newsletter where you can get Monday through Friday um, an email newsletter with what we've been doing at blueandgold.com. And if any breaking news on the football side of things or in recruiting, we will send you out an alert. Super chat here from ND Fitz. Another 5 spot. Someone dropped me a comment on who's on the $5. Yeah, honest Abe. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it and look like an idiot. So Abraham Lincoln, appreciate that. Austin Smith. ND Fitz says, could you talk about Kane Madden? And ND Fitz is not excited about his run blocking. That crazy Logan Diggs play, shout out to that true freshman from Louisiana, where
There's
he
another one.
broke 2 tackles and hurdled the dude. That first tackle broke out of because the defensive tackle just beat Madden really bad off the ball. So we'll get your thoughts on that in a second. And Fitz also says Styles to Ohio State. Lorenzo's younger brother, a 5-star athlete in the 2023 class, picked the Buckeyes over Notre Dame, Florida, Ole Miss, and Clemson. Certainly a loss there, but I mean, he's a Columbus kid. Dad played for the Buckeyes. I mean, it's not a shock. I was surprised at the timing. He visited for the Navy game and had a really good visit. So, personally, I was surprised by the timing. And we'll talk more recruiting in a Monday video with Greg Ladke. But your thoughts on Kane Madden, Mr. Goolsby?
The key word, Mike, I'm supposed to be objectively positive, right?
Yes,
Objective
positively
positivity.
objective. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, Kane Madden is not a good football player. Like he's just, and I've talked about it almost every week. In particular, like as bad, folks, as the offensive line was earlier in the season. Remember how bad we were? Like
Oh, yeah.
he was the worst player on that bunch. And everybody else around him sort of started to pick it up, and he's still the worst player. And I don't think it's just a body type thing. Like he's not a Division I Power 5 high level player. Physically, he's just not. And I think he's probably trying to make do with what God blessed him with or didn't bless him with, but he's not a very good football player. And like if you push this out to other positions, and this is kind of what my whole message this week is, Mike, is you have like your tenured, established starters. We'll look at Drew White versus a Bo Bauer. Bo Bauer's arguably faster, longer, more fluid, more aggressive, uses his hands better. So like again, you're looking for across the board at all these different positions. You're looking for more length and more athleticism. Like Kane Madden is like old school football. The kid that we just got the commitment from, Emil Wagner, Mike, like the left tackle. That's the new version. A looser, longer, more fluid athlete. That we don't have room. Championship programs, folks, don't have room for kids like Madden to be starters. He looks like a walk-on to me. So thank you for your service, but no, he hasn't been a very good player. He's been consistently poor, and I don't think a lot of that's his fault. It's just he's limited ability wise.
All right, we will get into all of the questions here from our YouTube live chat. But if you want us to answer your question right away, drop super chat. Let's talk about something that just always makes everyone feel good. I mean, Notre Dame fans are divided on a lot of things, but you know what they're not divided on? Kyren Williams. This dude, another really strong game, 14 rushes, 70 yards, and a touchdown. And then just a couple of receptions for 15 yards on a couple of targets. But another great game. I know when you sent me your notes, Mike, I know you had some thoughts on Kyren. So, what do you have to say about Mr. Williams? And then if you want to add anything on Logan Diggs and Chris Tyree too, because I know you're high on them.
Yeah, it's a great room. Shame on, and Mike. There's so many things I don't pretend to know anything about, but like growing up, remember when Joe Theismann won the Heisman and he changed his last name or the pronunciation of his last name from Thiesman to Theismann to help his like Heisman voting or the popularity, etc. I don't know what Notre Dame can or has done to promote Kyron in terms of getting him in the Heisman conversation, but I haven't heard any of it, any Williams for Heisman talk, and shame on Notre Dame or our sports information department because the kid's fantastic. Like I've said it before, like we almost don't deserve him. I mean, he's taken this leaky offensive line and completely changed his approach and made it work. And the balance that kid has, like the contact balance, and he's stepping out of plays. I mean, he's just amazing. And I really am looking forward to his pro day / combine workout to see how well he runs because he's going to catch the ball well. He's going to compete. But I don't know what his just top end 40-yard dash speed is going to be. But he's got a really bright future. And it's funny to watch Tyree play because it's his little brother and like he's still kind of figuring out, but he's really trying to model his game after Kyron, probably a little bit quicker, but he's picked up the patience and the bounce and he's runs as physical as I think he can with his smaller frame. And Logan Diggs is I've said it before in the show, like he seems like a prototypical running back in terms of the height, weight, measurables, just again, to look at him, he's like, you draw up a running back playing Madden or something, he would come close to looking like that. So yeah, he's a tremendous player. And you didn't mention this, Mike, but Kevin Austin, it's nice to see him really kind of come on. And I've kind of rode him throughout this
Yep.
year. And not that I've been negative about Kevin Austin, but it's just like, man, you can just see the ability. It's like if you could just, again, try like 10, 15, 20% harder, give a little bit more effort, the production's going to follow. His first catch today should have been a touchdown. He runs a slant, and they just got him by a shoelace. But it's really fun to see him continue to progress and start to turn into another playmaker outside of Kyron and Mayer.
I feel like if like we've all been in that scenario for like a kid in high school or something, and there's
You
that.
have?
Well, I think I have. Where there's that one kid who's just slacking off in class, but he's really smart, and the teacher's just like begging him to, give me a little bit more. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of you and Kevin Austin. You're that high school teacher, kind of like, come on, Austin. I see how talented you are. Just put it all
Yeah.
together for me. You're coming around.
Yeah, and I think confidence is great, and sometimes it takes kids a while to kind of grow that confidence. And I think he's getting there. He's definitely getting there.
Okay. All right. I got two more items. We got to touch on the defense, and then we're going to get into straight questions. And the next
Sure.
item after this will be quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, Armstrong didn't play, but 3 points. Like we're all talking about the killer instinct or lack thereof. No or, but Virginia's offense again train wreck. But that Notre Dame defense was pretty fantastic. What did you see from them? Maybe they not fantastic, and that offense was just that bad. Like, what do you have to say about the Notre Dame defense, Mike?
This was the most, especially early in the game. I thought that was the most physical in terms of arriving with bad intentions, like closing on a ball carrier. I thought it was the most physical that I've seen them play in some time. You have to account for the lack of injuries and kids being out with the flu. Uh, and I feel like that the scheme kind of was simplified. We play a little bit more man in the second half. I thought Ramon Henderson has found a home. I thought Xavier Watts showed up. It looked great. Bauer looked great. I sent Bo Bauer a message on Twitter at the end of last season. And I don't know him or anything, but I'm like, hey, we played the same position, and I've seen him play it. I've seen Drew White play it. And I was like, bro, just stay with it. Because to me, it was night and day in terms of the potential with him in terms of like his physical nature. So I was really happy to see him play so well and get a little bit of attention. But yeah, great game. They came out in the second half and started moving the ball a little bit because we were playing a little bit more man at that point. And Cam Hart, again, is another player I'm super high on. And he was right there to make a couple plays. We did create 2 turnovers, which is exciting. One was kind of a garbage time pick, DJ Brown's pick at the end, but you want it on the stat sheet. So good effort all the way across the board. Obviously, the defensive front played well. Riley Mills played well. And again, folks, like Riley Mills showing up, it's a bigger body, longer athlete. It's like, oh, we figured out now to slide him outside because we had to this year. And yeah, he's built much more like a strong side defensive end than he is a 3 tech. So Freeman's defense has come together. There still are times, I think it might have been in the second half, their first play, they hit the slot receiver, he was uncovered. So that there's still moments where you kind of pause Freeman's defense. You'd be like, there's a glaring weakness in it where he leaves himself vulnerable because of the way if the blitz doesn't get home, there's a glaring void. So if we can shore some of those up, that'd be great. But keeping with the theme of this particular show, Mike, you start to see more longer, more fluid, inevitably younger athletes kind of get plugged into Freeman's scheme over the next couple of years, and it's going to be sick. It really is.
All right, quarterback time. So Jack Cohn, let me pull up his stats here on the screen. Jack Cohn, 15 of 20. You love that completion percentage. Just 132 yards. I mean, I see you shaking your head there, Mike. And we talked about this before we started recording. I didn't feel like that was an indictment on him. I thought it was just like that was just the offense. I mean, like no one's gonna give Kyron Williams crap for only running for 70 yards. Like he touched the ball 14 times. I mean, they didn't throw with Jack. I mean, 20 attempts. Yeah, I mean it's not a ton in modern day football. 3 touchdowns. You like to see that one to Kevin Austin down the left sideline. Beautiful ball. And the interception, I mean, like he threw the ball downfield. He showed people that he can throw it more than 45 yards.
Can he though?
I mean, he did. I mean, that was pretty far downfield.
He threw a ball. And again, I support our starting quarterback. I'm so thankful that we do have Jack Cohn. But even the commentators are starting to pick up on it. He threw a ball. It was Braden Lenzy's first catch. He threw kind of an out to Lenzy. It was a kind of a comeback / out. Lenzy had to go to the ground to catch the ball. And the commentator, as Lenzy's catching the ball, he's like, oh, it took a while for that ball to get out there. Because Cohn doesn't have that whip of an arm and can't put the zip on the ball like Tyler does. So it's like, in a better corner would have been a crib call. A better corner would have picked that pass off and taken it to the house because he doesn't have the arm strength. So it's that frustration with Cohn's limited ability. I think that probably bleeds into fans' overall frustration with the approach this game. He's a limited quarterback, although I'll give him a little bit of credit, Mike. I thought he moved around the pocket much, much better this week in terms of his feet. He looked more comfortable in terms of keeping the happy feet that he had like the previous 2 weeks, even when he had time. So feet look better. Arm strength is still suspect. But yeah, he's just running the offense like we said earlier. Of course, you want to score 44 points or whatever, but he's not calling the plays. He's running the offense. I'm kind of tired of him throwing that drag route to Michael Mayer. It's like the 3rd or 4th time where he's almost gotten Michael Mayer killed on that crossing route. There's like that flat defender that's waiting for him. I swear, this week Mike got upended. That's like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen that. But as many young players as we're playing, Mike, why can't we give Tyler Buckner 2 more series this week? The game's in hand. Defense is playing well. Give him a series in the first half. Give him a series in the second half. It's maddening. I mean, you're playing so many young players. And then furthermore, down by the goal line, why does it make sense to have, when we screwed up the inside handoff there, does it make sense to have two true freshmen in that scenario? Probably not. In hindsight, maybe they would have swapped out Kyron there. But I digress.
All right, Mike. I'm pulling up.
Sure.
I'm pulling up PFF.
Geez.
To look. No, just for the snap counts.
Who anointed PFF as like the
Look,
end all be
their
all.
their grades are weird, but they have some really good advanced
Yeah, weird. Yeah,
statistics.
because going back to Cade Madden, Mike, they've had Cade Madden like rated as our best offensive lineman on any given week. So
Cade Madden
they kind of
has
lost me
had
with
some
that.
pretty. I'll look that up in a second. All right.
Anyways, do your thing.
So Notre Dame played 62 offensive snaps. What do you think the breakdown was between? And I'm not asking you to do the exact math, but just a ballpark of Cone to Buckner. What do you think it was during the game, and what would you like it to see? Or what
Oh,
would
so
you like
you're
to see?
asking me how many snaps did Cone have versus Buckner?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the way you framed the question, I would say it's probably 40-20, something like that, 41-21. Because
And what would
you had to when you watch the game, you had like, oh, Buckner's in. He's just handing the ball off. He did get more plays, more snaps than you realize. So yeah, I'd probably say 40-20.
what would you want it to be? Like for that game specifically, would you have liked it to be more 50-50, especially if Notre Dame's going to play conservative? Why don't you put Buckner in there and run the ball?
I've said that I would like Tyler to get series. So if you give him a series and it's a 3 and out, he
Didn't he?
gets to.
I thought he did get a series, at least
He
one or
did.
something.
He did. So you're asking the question, what ratio would I like to see? 50-50? Not necessarily. I'd like to get him
Okay.
to give him more series. So Tyler, you've got this series. And if it's a 3 and out, you go to the bench and then Jack comes back in. But if you put out a 9-10 play drive, so be it. So I think the 60-40 kind of percentage is fine. In terms of actual snaps, 40-20 is fine. But on those 20-21 snaps, you'd like to see 5 more passes. It's clear as day, dude. Like he had that rollout. He had a couple on his series, had a couple rollout throws, and he puts the receiver in a position to make a play. Mayer goes over that guy's back and catches the ball. He's so much more natural of a thrower. Uh, it's very, very frustrating. But that's my answer.
Okay.
I don't mind the mix, the 60-40 mix. I do think it should be done in terms of give him 2 series a game, 1 per half, or 3 series a game.
Okay.
And then when he is in the game, it's not rocket science. Just give him 10-15% more opportunities to throw the ball.
Yeah. I just moved off the page, but I think it was 42-16. So you're
Sure.
pretty, or 42-17.
Yeah.
Cone to Buckner snaps. All right. As far as the
I think, but Mike,
grades,
real quick
yep.
to put a bow on that, I think what I'm asking for, I think most fans would echo that, and I almost feel like it's impossible to argue at this point. It's like it's trending that he's going to be the dude next year. These are like the next 2 weeks, Mike. Like we're going to win those football games, and we know we don't care to blow teams out anymore. Kelly's not trying to get style points, what have you. So why the hell wouldn't you give Tyler 3 to 4 series throughout the course of the game? It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways,
As far as those PFF grades, got it listed here. Jarrett Patterson, and this is total offensive grade, so this is a mix of run block and pass blocking. 82.0, that's the highest of the O line. Josh Lugg 76.2. And what that, like, that's just an arbitrary number. Is that like A, B, C, D? I don't think so, but like anything above 70 and up, PFF thinks is pretty good.
how many
Lugg's at
people does Mike? Real quick, how many people does PFF have on staff?
it has to be a ton because they do these snap counts for
Thousands.
every game,
They must have they must outsource it to
like an
another country or something.
army. Like how,
There's no way you can
and they're
break down
good.
within
Like the
24
snap
hours.
counts are accurate too.
Yeah.
Like, and what they'll do is they'll go in and change it. Like a couple days later, you'll see it one snap difference because they go back and watch it again 2 or 3 times. It's impressive. So I'll go through this quickly. Madden, the third highest graded offensive lineman, 75.9. Joe Alt's 74.0. That's how you know these are garbage, right? Because Joe Alt's not a 100. Zeke Correll, 56.7. And am I missing Chris Stoffick? Oh, 64.3. So, take it for what it's worth. But all right, let's get straight into questions. And Ron
Let's
with a
do it.
comment here says Joe Alt is impressive, and you know what, Ron? He is. He is a beast. Mike, you mentioned Emil Wagner earlier. Do you want to touch on him as a football player? What do you think about Emil Wagner? The new commitment for Notre Dame, 4-star offensive lineman.
Yeah, it's he is like this is we'll have to watch in the off season. We'll do some of these kind of commit breakdowns and really maybe get a little bit more into the weeds in this. But he is like a loose. He's a loose player.
Do you want me to
He
pop on his film right now, Mike?
go for it,
All
dude.
right.
Yeah, he's like he's just a really loose player to me in terms of like he's not like an overly physical player, but for him to be able to mirror like a pass rusher, it's comes very easy to him, and he can put the weight on as we've seen with the aforementioned Joe Alt and all these kids too. Real quick, I saw an interview. I think they had interviewed Joe Alt. And these Notre Dame kids, Mike, and you already know this, right? They are so impressive to listen to them speak. And it makes me super proud uh, as a Notre Dame football alum, ex-captain, to like see these kids. I mean, these kids are like 18, 16 years old, 17 years old, sometimes being interviewed, and their families. It's just amazing. So, and I know Emil Wagner's a
Yeah.
straight A student too, so it's
Yeah.
just more the same
Oh,
with him.
dude, he is. Oh, and he's such a good kid.
Yeah,
I called him because when he announced, totally out of the blue, Notre Dame didn't even know that he was picking them. And I called him a few hours after he announced, and he didn't answer. He's probably out at dinner celebrating. He calls me back. Like, no recruit ever calls me back. I mean, like, dude, he's just, I'm rooting for this kid. All right, so this is his senior film. He just dropped this today. So we'll just watch a little bit of this.
and all we're looking for, we'll just watch this real quick. Is there's a play too that I think I saw. This might be it where he just gets on his horse. This is ridiculous, folks.
at about, what,
For
265 pounds right now?
it's ridiculous, and you can see the stride. Like, I mean, he almost looks like a 200-meter type runner. So like, there's a lot of plays where you'll see it at the end of the play. He sort of kind of gathers himself, and he's just so loose. I don't know how else to explain it. Long arms, and you're looking for athletes. So would he be like if this kid had 50 more pounds on him? Would it be a 5-star? Sure. Um, Not necessarily the most dominant player in terms of just putting kids into the dirt, but you can see, well, as I misspoke, there he does it, but super fluid, super long athlete. And that's what we're looking for across the board at all positions.
All right. Yeah. That's
I
fun.
mean,
Look at us just popping on the film in the middle of a live show. I'm gonna clip this up and put it back as its own video too, so people can hear this because I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to listen or watch the entire show 43 minutes in. And podcast audience,
I don't know why they wouldn't, but
you'll
yeah,
just
look
have
at the
to.
base, light, like super quick feet, light on his feet. That's just telling me that's a good looking athlete.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so like these are the type of kids. It's like, well, he moves like an NFL kid. We'll see what how it shakes out. But I'm just talking about the looseness in him. He's a super impressive player, really good get.
And I'll tell folks, Mike is very honest. Like when we first hired Mike, one of the first recruit breakdowns we did was on Will Shipley, and Mike wasn't a big Will Shipley guy when Notre Dame was very much in the mix for him. Mike didn't see the everything, but you did love Tyree. So Mike will give it to you straight, of course. That's what we love.
Yeah,
That's what we love about Mike Goolsby. Any other thoughts before we move on to some straight Q&A here?
no, let's jump into some
All right,
questions.
let's do it. All right, let's see. D Rock Irish says this is more of a something I think we are all thinking and agree with. He says, I would like to sit down and have a beer or two with Goolsby, who I watched play, and he can tell me about the current state. Truth matters. Hey, D Rock, this is what we're doing right now, man. Grab yourself an adult beverage yourself, kick back, drop us some super chats, and yeah, ask Goolsby some questions. We love it. This is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Tobbs Vintage says, so does Kyron stay next year? It would be a shock if he does. He is just tailor-made for the NFL, in my opinion. So you can touch on that question if you want to, Mike, but just, and I believe you did kind of answer this next question earlier, but his NFL prospects, because he seems like he can do everything. You could put him in the slot. You can throw screens out of the backfield. He blocks, which I'm sure NFL scouts are raving about. So what else do you have to add about Kyron Williams?
you go get your money for first of all, and it's like if he comes back for another year, it's just more mileage on his body. It's more wear and tear, which you would think would probably knock him down in the eyes of a draft evaluator. And I'm very much into the draft, Mike. Like it's almost a hobby. Like I love it. So yeah, I would say he'll probably end up being a second round pick at a younger age, and then he gets through his first deal, and then you might be able to sign a second deal because you want to sign as many contracts as possible. I don't think he's leaving the cupboard bare either. I don't think he has anything to feel bad about in terms of leaving the program, and that you've got a Kyron Williams-esque type player in Tyree, very similar build, maybe a little bit more burst, not quite the balance. And then you've got Logan Diggs, you've got Estime. I know a lot of people are excited to see what he can bring to the team. So we should all be proud of Kyron and go get your money. And yeah, I think he'll end up being a second round ish type pick. He's not, maybe even the third round. What's going to hurt him is he doesn't have like the Najee Harris type size. He doesn't have the Logan Diggs type size. So everybody wants a 6 foot tall, 210-pound running back. That's almost like the perfect size for running back. Whereas Kyron's going to be a little bit on the shorter side. And it's just not, I think that might cause him to slip a little bit because there still is a little bit of like traditionalism, I think, when it comes to the evaluation process of some of these NFL guys.
Yeah, and he doesn't have that like I wouldn't call him a burner. Like he's definitely got speed, but he's not Chris Tyree fast. So he doesn't have the best size. He's not the fastest guy, but man, he just got those
Well, I'm telling you, that's
intangibles.
why, bro. That's why I mentioned the 40 later on. So I mean, if he goes back and he runs I don't think he's going to run in the high 4.5s, but if he can get in that 4.42, 4.44 type category, then that
Yeah.
should answer some of those questions. But yeah, he doesn't quite leave people in terms of the separation speed, but you don't see him get caught from behind much either.
Yeah. All
So
right, we are in straight Q&A mode, so appreciate
fire
everyone
away.
joining us. What's that, Mike?
I said fire away.
Yeah, fire away. Hit that thumbs up. Sign up for our newsletter. Always got exciting stuff coming at blueandgold.com. So you definitely will want to stay tuned. Drop super chat. We'll get to your question right away. Thought this was a good observation. I wanted your thoughts on, Mike. Stooch says it's not about going back to the whole, putting the foot on the pedal, just totally dismantling Virginia. So it's not about running up the score. It's about playing a whole game at 100%. Gets you prepared mentally and physically for the tougher games. Yeah, fair comment. Any thoughts, Mike?
I would agree. Um, but like you're playing the whole game, you're getting the mental reps, you're getting the experience for sure. But it's how are you going about that business? Are you doing it in an aggressive fashion, or are you doing it in a moderately aggressive fashion? So I see the point. And yeah, we run our offense, we ran our defense. You're getting more stuff on film for these kids. I don't really have any complaints about it. Again, I understand the frustration, but you have to trust the process. And I just think if you're ever a Notre Dame fan, you get frustrated watching some of these games because we don't, again, blow their doors off. Just think that a year out, maybe 2 years out, this will serve us. What we're seeing right now.
All right. I have got 9 questions queued up, so
Hammer 'em.
let's run through these, or questions slash comments like this one. Good observation. Kyron is quick, not fast.
Yeah, there's a difference. Short area quickness versus long speed, definitely a difference. I don't entirely disagree.
All right. I love this by Eric. Can you just read this, Mike? Can you see this? I want you to read
I
it.
can I can't see the bottom. You got to read out loud. I can't
Okay.
see the
He
full
says,
text.
kind of off topic, but something I've been curious about. Did you ever get any McDonald's bag offers from other schools? Is that stuff prevalent?
No. I've heard stories though, but me personally, no.
You were a 5-star Tom Lemming linebacker. I mean,
Yeah, we were also naive as hell. So maybe if I would have known what I was doing, I could have figured something out. But no, no cash exchanged hands, no cars, no nothing. I heard, Mike, that Bama kids get Dodge Chargers now. Is that true?
I had no idea.
With the NIL deal?
That wouldn't surprise
Something,
me.
something for folks to look up. All right, continue.
Audric Estime, why isn't he playing more? CGC. Let me pull up his PFF. See how many snaps he's played this year. But I don't know. I mean, who do you want to take snaps away from? He's only got 3 snaps. Is that right? I know I've seen him in some goal line, kind of playing like an H back. Um,
I don't
Few
think you need
snaps.
him. I don't think
I
you have
like, who are you taking snaps away from?
you've got like the best running back in college. You've got a stud true freshman behind him. Yeah, I don't think you. Frankly, why isn't he playing? You don't need him.
That's not a knock on him. He's a great player. I
No,
love him, but yeah, you just don't need him right now.
no, and there's we're playing. I think Mike too. We are playing so many young kids, so many true freshmen that I feel like people are maybe almost like taking that for granted. Like, why aren't all of them playing? Like, we're playing so many young kids. It's exceptionally rare across the board where it's like, well, why don't we play them at every single position this year? And it's like it's very unusual the amount of youth that we've had to turn to this year. So
Right.
just keep that in mind.
I feel like after that UNC game, that 44-34 game, we were probably on here the whole time. Man, Marcus Freeman, that defense, that tackling. And now it's just like crickets. No one's talking about the defense. It's all about the offense. But after Notre Dame drops 44 against UNC, nothing. And I've seen comments. I might have saved. I didn't save, but I'll paraphrase the question we're getting. A lot of people are saying, man, Virginia's got the worst defense in college football. BYU just scored over 60 against them. You know, is that a huge knock on Notre Dame's offense that they did drop 28? Like, I feel like if Notre Dame said, hey, we have to score 50 points, I think they could have scored 50 points.
Totally. No, yeah, you nailed it, Mike. And it's just Kelly is like, hey, I don't know if they have I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, does he have Coach Reese on some sort of a pitch count, and that you only get 3 deep throws a game? Yeah, you better use them wisely. It's
I would
almost
hate
like what
that.
that's what it almost seems like, because you did try and you saw him trying to hit a deep bomb to Lorenzo. Plus, we have a guy that can't throw the ball 50 yards accurately in Jack Cohn. But yeah, so I think the ability is there, but to run up the score and to drop 40, 50, I do think it's there. And Lorenzo Styles is fast as hell, by
Dude,
the way.
love
Like, he is
Lorenzo Styles.
exciting. And there's that play where he stepped out of bounds. Like, we don't
How
get to see a lot of that.
how just silky smooth is he?
Yeah.
Just like everything just seems very easy to him.
Yeah.
I love him. And also, I don't know if we've talked about Michael Mayer. Oh, we did talk about Mayer earlier. He's just a freaking stud. Like, we're not talking about him enough. Like, Mayer's just a beast. But yeah, Styles.
Again, we take players like Kyron and we take players like Mayer for granted. We just
I'm
tend
just
to
happy
expand
Mayer's a
him on offense.
sophomore.
I thought the Lorenzo style too. I don't know if I've said this out loud, but his let me so way back when I was going to school, we were recruiting Greg Olson, right, who ends up, having a great NFL career, is doing a good job in the booth now with Fox. So the year prior, we signed his brother Greg Olson to play quarterback, and Greg was a terrible quarterback. Had an awful release, and like it was just like yeesh. But I think that we recruited Chris Olson, the quarterback, so we could maybe sign his brother Greg, because he was kind of the jewel. And Greg did come here for like a week, and then he transferred out to Miami. If you look at Sonny Styles and Lorenzo Styles, not saying that like Sonny is the Greg Olson in this scenario, but it would have been interesting if you would have played Lorenzo consistently throughout, if that would have affected Sonny's opinion of the program. Just a random thought. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, oh, they're brothers? Like, why aren't we playing him more? But we'll see. Well, was there a question, Mike? I got off track.
No, we were just shooting shit.
BSing, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I like about YouTube. We can say shit. No one. How many people listen to 54 minutes in? Yeah, I don't know. No one's gonna cancel me for that.
352, it says.
Oh yeah. So good bit. All right. Rover Ace says this offense will get destroyed. He says in all caps if they play a top 4 team in the bowl game. What do you think, Mike? If Notre Dame's the number 4 seed, and I'm going to step back a little bit. When Notre Dame has made it to these big games, right? Alabama twice this decade, or in the Kelly era, that Clemson, they just run into some really damn good teams. If Notre Dame sneaks in the playoffs somehow and Georgia's the 1 seed, yeah, Georgia's going to beat the doors off of like Notre Dame, and that Georgia defense is like historically great. And if that game happens, number 1 Georgia versus number 4 Notre Dame in the college football playoff, it's going to be like 28 to like 6 or 35 to 6, something like that. And it's going to go back to, oh, Kelly stinks, can't win but like that Georgia game, that team is like, that defense is like historically fantastic. I mean,
It depends on your yeah, they've got going back to shame on Notre Dame for not doing what they can to raise Kyron's Heisman status, but I saw something, a graphic on TV where Georgia's like 350-pound three technique, number 99. He's like in the top 6 Heisman voting, almost like Ndamukong Suh was way back in the day. Yeah, I mean, if we found ourselves playing a Georgia in the playoff, and like I said, I don't believe that Coach Kelly wants to put that team in this team in that position. I truly don't. You would have to, if in that scenario, our defense would have to save us. And I do think to have any sort of a shot in that game, you have to make splash plays on offense. You will not beat Georgia throwing 20, going 14 for 20, throwing for 132 yards with your dad at quarterback like Jack Cohn. Like Jack Cohn looks like a 41-year-old dad out there. That ain't gonna cut it. So to me, it's like throw Tyler out there and go play a little bit of backyard ball, because you got to manufacture some points. And you'd have to lean on the defense to create turnovers. I mean, that's the only. But yes, I totally agree. And we don't want to be in that scenario this year, but I think you're building for in the next couple years. And I also, like I said, take everything that Coach Kelly's learned in his time here and where he's at in his timeline of potentially retiring. And I just feel like the next year or two are going to be really exciting. I do.
All right, 4 more questions, unless we get a super chat, and then we're getting out of here. KR says, all right, be honest. Any chance Freeman would ever replace Kelly? I mean, you could throw would, you could throw could, should, wherever you want to take this, Mike. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame's next head coach. What would you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a potential. Can't rule anything out. I think some of that's going to depend on the relationship that those two. If that were to ever be the case, those two would have to have a stronger relationship than maybe it seems or appears that they do now. Kelly's got a massive ego. I think Freeman's got an undercover ego. I think that they've kind of butted heads a little bit in terms of like schematics. I can assure you that Coach Kelly probably leaves Coach Freeman alone throughout the course of the week. If Freeman did want that job, he'd probably have to do more to build a stronger connection with Kelly. Coach Freeman's only been there for a few months, right? He was hired before the season. But I think those two would have to build a stronger relationship for that kind of torch to be passed. But it's fun to think about. Who knows?
Sure. All right. 3 more. All right. D-Rock Irish says, where's Rocco Spindler? He's
Mike,
on the football team.
He's on the football team.
I mean,
right now he's probably in study hall or something.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I go back to
like we said earlier, Mike. We're playing so many young kids.
They need Notre Dame fans need there to be 20 true freshmen playing, not 19. Damn it, that's
yeah. Play 20 of them, and then when we sign the next year's class, all of those true freshmen need to play.
They got to play. Yeah.
So what you're seeing is extraordinarily unusual in terms of the amount of youth that we're seeing this year. Give Rocco time, and we talked about that. Like, I think Rocco has the look. I think he has the name. We talked about this on the show, Mike. Like, he looks the part. I wasn't as nearly impressed with Rocco's high school film as everybody else was. So I'll give him another year to develop. It's not a knock at all, but I don't think he might look like he's ready physically with, he just has that demeanor about him. But yeah, he probably still needs another year on the shelf. What's the next question, Mike?
Yeah. What do you think about Xavier Watts, a guy that you're familiar with as a young man from your home state? That got really big. What do you think about Xavier Watts?
Yeah, I'm excited for the kid, and I couldn't be happier for him. And I said on the pod last week with Greg, I know he takes the sport and the game very seriously. And I wasn't a fan of Houston Griffin just with the drama of him, transferring school and then coming back and like jerking the coach's chain around and like stuff like that. again, that's my sort of leadership style. I have no tolerance for that. Like either you're with us or you're against us, and if you're going to be with us, get your shit together and freaking play better. So you lost your job, bro. So I'm thrilled to see a kid like Xavier that's had his own chain jerked around, position switches, etc., to still go out there and ball a little bit. Very excited. And Ramon Henderson also. And even DJ Brown, dude. DJ Brown came
He had a
downhill and
good
made a
game.
couple plays. So I think that those let's look at those three real quick just to complete the show here. Xavier Watts is probably the best mix of both athletic ability, speed, instincts, etc. Whereas Ramon Henderson might be the most fluid at a safety position, right, where he's not asked to completely just flip his hips and turn and run. DJ probably has the best like wherewithal, but he looks to be the most limited athletically out of those three to me, just in terms of watching him play. So yeah, I'm super excited for Xavier Watts. And he's a kid that he won't say much, but he's a true freshman that hasn't played the position all year, and he's shown up on film twice, and that's more than we could say for Houston Griffin, given a 6-7 game sample size. So super optimistic.
Mike Goolsby never pulls punches. Especially a lot more than last year. I was just thinking about that, man. We've gone a lot more towards just objectivity, not positive objectivity. But you know what? I'm okay with it. These Notre Dame football players, they're
Well,
adults.
listen, now
They're adults.
if Houston Griffin hadn't left the program, just think about it. He's like, I deserve to be playing, right? I deserve to be starting. I'm not playing. I'm going to take my ball and go home, right? Oh, no, Houston, please, please, please come back. And you come back and don't do boo on the field. Leave. That's how I am in the locker room. Like, if you're going to make this scene and create all this drama and then literally not even get your name called throughout the course of a game, what are you doing here? So, yeah, get some young kids in. You just lost your job to a true freshman.
All right, we've got a super chat from our own staff. There you go. Greg Ladkey says, you can call me Ladkey, Goolsby. Great stuff. Love the analysis on the safety position. All right, Greg. We appreciate it.
Greg probably feels bad about that. That's $1 for every minute he had me on mute last week. He had himself on mute.
Well, Ladkey, I don't know if you were listening to the beginning of the show, but I muted myself twice on accident. So, all right. Well, we are over an hour, and we're going to wrap this thing up. So, appreciate you guys watching live. If you watched back this entire hour, appreciate you as well. You probably got a little bit too much time on your hands, but we still appreciate you. And for those podcast listeners, we really love that you made us a part of your day. So I'm Mike Singer. He's Mike Goolsby. We are out. Make sure you check us out at blueandgold.com. You'll see more of us there. See you next time.